Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Hold on. Actually,
Oh my God, so cool.
can I just present like this? Is that okay?
Yep, that's fine.
Great. Okay. So as some of you may know, I recently traveled to South Africa where I had the honor to volunteer with Siyafunda Wildlife and Conservation. I had an amazing time there and there's so much to say about this trip, which is why before I start, I wanted to present this video I made for the trip.
Oh. Jesus.
All right, cool. So many memories. Just back to the present mode. Okay. All right. So yeah, it has always been one of my dreams to volunteer with the wildlife in Africa. And this year I finally decided to do it. After I posted photos and videos on social media, I received a lot of inquiries on the trip and the program. So I want to share as much information as I can during this presentation, should anyone decide to volunteer with them. So the presentation does have an agenda, which I will cover at the end. I will be focusing on these 4 topics: logistics, the actual volunteer activities, information to get you prepared, and additional resources. So I basically started I started researching by Googling volunteer with wildlife in Africa, and a few options popped up. I picked the 3 top agencies that were the most interesting to me, and eventually decided on Siyafunda Wildlife and Conservation in Holsbroek, South Africa. Based on location, species, volunteer activities, rates, accommodation, and transportation. So I listed the logistics under each program, and we'll share the slides after the presentation, so feel free to take a look. And these agencies have multiple programs, so if you scroll them, I'm sure you will find one that speaks the most to you. So before the trip, I consulted my clinic, and they recommend a few vaccines for hepatitis A, tetanus, typhoid, rabies, and anti-malaria pills. I mean, I got all the vaccines, but the reserve is not really in a malaria zone. So it really depends on your comfort level. The choice is really up to you whether or not you want to get those vaccines. And you must test negative for a COVID PCR test within 72 hours of entering South Africa. So the whole flight is about 19 to 21 hours. I flew from New York City to Amsterdam, from there to Johannesburg, South Africa, and took a tiny domestic flight that fit 8 passengers to Holsbroek. So riding in the tiny plane was definitely more scary than I thought. The reserve is then an hour and away driving from the Holsbroek airport. So the landowner, Mike, has several lodges for guests, but volunteers mainly lodge at the main research camp or the bush camp. I stayed at the bush camp for 2 weeks, which is very much like camping. The weekly schedule is usually up in the kitchen every week. So we left at 6 a.m. every day and spent about 4 to 5 hours in the field, came back to the camp for a long break, then took off again around 2:30 p.m. for another 4 to 5 hour drive. After the afternoon drive, volunteers took turns to cook, clean dishes, chat, and rest. When I was there, I helped feed the buffaloes. Oh, sorry, not yet. I helped feed the buffaloes, clean the riverbanks, remove trees off the roads after elephants knocked them down. If you're lucky, you might be involved in dehorning and other projects like placing ID collars on lions, elephants, or giraffe, all that cool stuff. There will be tons of sightings and data collections, especially on the big 5 game species. They are elephant, lion, leopard, buffalo, and rhino, black rhino specifically. They're called the big 5 because they're the hardest animals to hunt by foot. There will also be tons of sighting on other species such as giraffes, hippos, wildebeests, many antelopes, hyenas, warthogs, and birds. Sometimes we stop to examine and follow the tracks to hopefully find a rare animal. And sometimes we use telemetry to locate a certain herd from the ID collar that was placed on the matriarch. The rangers gave an introductory talk and went over the safety protocols when we first arrived. For example, we were not to walk around after dark by ourselves without flashlight. If we see eye shines of something we can't identify, back away slowly to the closest tent. During drives, we were not to stand up in the vehicle because that would make the predators realize that we were individuals. So my biggest advice to anyone who wants to go is to take care of yourself. Long hours in the field can be taxing on the body. Make sure to stay hydrated and get used to peeing in the bush. We were asked to never leave any garbage in the bush, such as toilet paper. And the closest hospital is an hour and a half away from the reserve. So it's important to have everything you need. And I just want to quickly touch a topic here. Siyafunda is a closed conservation, which means it's fenced with electrical wires and gated. I actually got zapped by electrical wire there. I was like, wow, my fingers feel numb. There's also an anti-poaching unit on site, which makes poaching generally very hard. White rhinos are dehorned for that reasons as well. There are pros and cons to both open and closed conservations, but it's beyond the scope of this presentation. Now, if a bull, which is a male elephant, breaks out of a fence repeatedly and trespasses to other properties, it's legal to shoot them in South Africa. Here is a picture of elephant skull, who was unfortunately shot because of the breakout. It's a very sad reality because we, the people, keep destroying their natural habitats and view them as a threat. I'm hoping that with advocacy and funding, a different solution will be in place. The rangers will teach you so much about the species there, their habitats, behaviors, how to recognize different animals' tracks. When I was there, I completely trust the rangers because they are the true experts of the African bush. And most importantly, have tons of fun and take a lot of photos and videos. I can't stress enough how important it is to be prepared. So here is a list of essentials that I personally find very, very useful. And be ready to share them with other volunteers to help each other out. I highly recommend bringing a sleeping bag because it's really cold in a tent at night. Other volunteers were wearing layers of clothes and socks in bed, but I'm just not about that life. I also highly recommend going in the fall and spring because it can get as hot as over 100 degrees with humidity in the summer and as low as 20 degrees in the winter. There's no AC, heater, or fan in the bush camp, so the coldness is especially bad in the morning and night. Daylight is short. After sunset at 6 p.m., it's pitch black. So take a shower or do whatever chores you have during the day. The living condition is very humble. The bush camp is rustic and has outdoor shower. We can boil water and mix with cold water to take a hot bucket shower. The tent is cozy and built on wooden decks. There's a wash machine at the main research camp and everything is air dried. Tents are shared and the bathrooms unfortunately don't have locks. The water comes from a well, so it's safe to drink out of a tap. It's high in calcium and minerals, so you may see white deposits in your water, but it's actually really good for us. The water is solar powered, which means we needed to conserve water on overcast days. On some days, you may just not be able to take a shower. Electronic devices can be charged either from a solar generator at the bush camp or at the main research camp with a power adapter. There will be a town trip once a week on every Monday. It's about an hour and a half away from the reserve. During that time, feel free to get whatever you need, such as essentials and snacks. All the rangers speak English, but most volunteers don't. It won't be such an issue as long as you are a team player, have a positive attitude, and know how to have fun. I met a lot of amazing people and made tons of friends, and we now follow each other on Instagram. So the last slide has the contact information of the organization and other volunteer resources. An agenda of this presentation is actually to raise funds for Siyafunda. Due to COVID and traveling restrictions, the organization was heavily impacted. It has very little revenue for a whole year because payments from volunteers and lodge guests cover food, lodging, staff, salary, and gas. Therefore, I'm donating my referral bonus of $2,400, and I'm hoping that Screencastify, Collin, can match my donation. For the rest of you all, I'm not asking you to match my donation, but anything you contribute will directly go to the amazing work of wildlife research and conservation in South Africa. So you can go to this GoFundMe link to donate. That's it. Thank you so much. Yay. I don't know if we have time for questions, but yeah. Collin.
Awesome. I know we're a little over time, but I'm sure folks have tons of questions. Why don't I start a thread in the Castify random channel, and then folks can ask questions to you there. And if you can share the slides presentation with the donation links and all that stuff, we'd love to take a look at it.
I will. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
so much. Yeah, this was great, Lou. Thank you. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.